Welcome, I am Emir, and let's look back in hindsight. Once again, we take a deep dive into Windows. It's been a while, and I'm glad to be back. And once more, we're going back to Longhorn/Vista. Unlike WinFS, the feature I will be talking about today saw the light of day. Hehe, rhymes. But not in the way that Microsoft originally intended. Really now, how was the sidebar in Longhorn different from the one that shipped in the final product? How was Microsoft not able to deliver the original sidebar? I mean, it's a sidebar. How can you go wrong with a sidebar? And did Microsoft simply copy Apple? Let me answer that last question first. Way before Longhorn, Windows already had a sidebar. Not called the sidebar though. I remember seeing Active Channel on my grandpa's Windows 98 machine, but never used it. We didn't have internet at that time. And once we did have the internet, I was already using Windows XP. Active Channel was a set of links that opened up in Internet Explorer. Active Desktop allowed setting up web pages to appear on the desktop and flash information. Microsoft was also toying around with the start page using Active Desktop technology. But we'll get to that. And no, I'm not talking about the start screen. That's a whole different thing entirely. Or is it? In 2001, instead of filling up the whole desktop, Microsoft Research developed Sideshow for internal use in Microsoft. Sideshow contained the sidebar we all know and love. I love the sidebar, I'll explain later. Showing by default on the right side of the desktop. Get it? Right side, sidebar. Hello, Captain Obvious. Displaying real-time information in the form of tickets. These tickets could be anything you want, as long as you know the HTML. One build leaked to the outside world in 2002. I played with it in 2009 and 2012, but never really used it as an everyday sidebar because the tickets were either dead or not relevant to me. I wasn't in Seattle. I wasn't, and until now, I'm not in the USA, USA, USA. I had to set up Microsoft Office Outlook to get screenshots of the Outlook ticket in action. Why use Outlook if you could just use a web browser anyway? But hey, had one use for the sidebar. I could get the start menu on Windows 8. Speaking of the start menu, pre-reset Longhorn builds. I'll talk about the reset someday. Still researching on that. Pre-reset Longhorn builds contain the feature of making the taskbar and the sidebar appear on the same side of the screen. So I could access the start menu from the sidebar, just like in Sideshow. There's even a demo where the sidebar and the taskbar appear on the bottom. A bottom bar, I guess. And this mad lad got that concept working in one build of Longhorn. But Microsoft's primary vision for the sidebar was not as a taskbar replacement. No. Rather, the sidebar would have become, and it did become, a place where users could get timely and relevant information from an application or service while they are using other applications. For example, users can check new emails just by looking on the side of their screen. Or is it looking at the side of their screen. English. They don't have to minimize or move away from say, a report or document they're working on. They're not distracted from their main task. That strategy, which I just described, is called peripheral awareness by the Microsoft Research Technical Report on Sideshow. Other ways of getting information for users is through polling, or actively checking for information, or through alerts, interrupting users when something important happens. However, these require distracting the user from what they're doing. Peripheral awareness does not. So the vision of the sidebar made it in the final product. What's different from pre-reset Longhorn builds is the execution. 1. The taskbar replacement. 2. And more importantly, the post-reset Longhorn/Vista sidebar used HTML-based gadgets running under Internet Explorer to show information. Just like Sideshow. I doubt I can make a ticket for Sideshow that also works as a gadget on the Vista sidebar. Anyone want to take on the challenge? The pre-reset Longhorn sidebar used the Windows Presentation Foundation, then codenamed Avalon, one of the pillars of Longhorn. The sidebar was also integrated into Windows Explorer. So when the sidebar crashes, Explorer goes down with it. And it's pretty easy to crash the sidebar, just like how easy it is to crash Longhorn pre-reset builds. You don't have to introduce viruses. That's how buggy it is. Just add a tile that doesn't work, like basket. I'll talk about that in a future video. Or a tile that doesn't exist. For example, adding to the registry references to a tile present in a separate pre-reset build. No wonder Microsoft decided to go back to basics, ditching WPF or Avalon for HTML. Meanwhile, there's an alternative sidebar, Carl sidebar, or the retrophase sidebar, which used WPF, bringing to life the pre-reset Longhorn sidebar for Windows Vista. It even used the term tiles instead of gadgets. Seeing visualizations from Windows Media Player running on the sidebar was, and still, as Blakely put it, fascinating. I just wish I could watch streaming videos on the sidebar too. I used Carl sidebar regularly in the late 2000s, but I stopped when I moved to a netbook, which was all the rage at that time. By the time I got a laptop in 2014, Carl sidebar was dead. Aero XP, which became Winjade, the main site for the project, was a ghost town full of spam. Tiles were no longer actively developed. For old time's sake, nostalgia I guess, I played around with Carl sidebar on Windows 10. Some tiles still work. The clock, the power tile, which I follow to determine when to plug in at 40% and plug out at exactly 100%. The power adapter, the news feed. Surprised I could run 2 feeds at the same time. Downside, I can't change the feed source if the one I placed turns out to be empty. However, this tile is not exactly peripheral awareness oriented. It does not auto-refresh. Other working tiles are slideshow and sticky notes. Sadly, the AccuWeather tile no longer works. so does the Windows Media Player tile. Though I think that's because WMP is no longer in Windows 10. Citation needed. Bottom line, Carl's sidebar is still working, and I'm reinstating it as part of my Windows 10 desktop. Wish I could say the same about Sideshow though. What about the Windows Vista sidebar, which became desktop gadgets in Windows 7? I used it. I even used it when the sidebar was ditched and the gadgets instead appear on the desktop, which defeats the point of peripheral awareness. Because when you maximize a window, these gadgets are out of view. I have to click on Show Desktop just to check for new information. I think that's the reason the Show Desktop button was included in the right of the clock, to access the desktop and the gadgets. And several Windows numbers later, the Show Desktop button is still there. I just don't think it fills the purpose anymore. There are no more gadgets. I'll get to that shortly. Desktop gadgets took a step back into polling territory. I like, and this is not just for Windows 7 but also in Vista, I like that I could run multiple instances of the same gadget. I could see what time is it in different cities around the world without having to look it up online. Peripheral awareness further took a step back in Windows 8 and beyond. Now I'm getting to that point. If I have to check for new information, I have to click the Start screen, the Start menu, or News and Interests to see the tiles. For email, I guess I could see the number of new emails on the taskbar. But if I wanted to know more, I have to open the app. Not to mention that these tiles do not update in real time. I have to open the email app and click refresh. Well, I could also check the notifications, if I get them, which I don't. Or if they stay on the Action Center. Unfortunately, there's no notification history in Windows 10. That's another pre-reset Longhorn feature that bit the dust. But I'm working on a separate video about that, because that function is still something we could use in Windows. The sidebar is also one of those, because bottom line, I have to open the app to get the information, instead of just looking at the side of my screen. I'm distracted. I prefer the sidebar and peripheral awareness. But that's just me. Let me know what you think of the sidebar. Was it useful for you? Did you use it regularly? Did Microsoft take a step back with Windows 8 and beyond? Why am I not getting real-time notifications on my email app? I think that's because I set a metered connection. Because if I didn't set a metered connection, Windows Update would just hog all my internet. Anyway, let me know what you think of this video. Comment on the YT page. Please like and share this video across social media. Subscribe and ring the bell. Check out my other Balik Tanaw / in Hindsight videos. I did 2 earlier ones on Windows, WinFS, and NGSCB. Check them out. Support the show on PayPal, on Patreon, and on Brave Rewards on Brave Browser. Thank you to my sibling G-G Arts for my avatar. Check out and support her work by clicking the links in the description. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and take care.